The kingdom breathed a sigh of relief after the destruction of the stone, but Ihunanya felt a lingering unease. Though the skies cleared and the land prospered, she couldn't ignore the crooked smile's parting words. Power never disappears. It only changes hands. One night, as she stood on her palace balcony, a strange glow flickered in the horizon. It was faint, but unmistakable, the same eerie light that had pulsed from the black stone. Perhaps it wasn't destroyed, she whispered. Agosa appeared beside her, her silver-streaked hair shimmering in the moonlight. The forest holds many secrets, Queen Ihunanya. Some things never truly die. They only wait. In a distant village, a young farmer named Uyi began noticing odd happenings. Crops grew faster than they should, but their roots were tangled with blackened soil. Shadows stretched unnaturally even under the midday sun. One evening, as he worked in his fields, Uyi heard whispers coming from the forest. The voice was low and melodic, promising wealth and power if he followed. Against his better judgment, he ventured in. Deep in the woods, he found shards of the black stone, glowing faintly. When he touched one, the crooked smile materialized in the shadows, its laughter echoing through the trees. The shards of the stone began to spread their corruption, carried by those tempted by its promises. Strange occurrences began to plague the kingdom. Rivers ran red for days, cattle grew sick, and crops withered overnight. News of the disturbances reached Ihunanya. The stone wasn't destroyed, she said to her council. Its fragments are out there, poisoning the land. Agosa nodded gravely. If left unchecked, the shards will gather power again. Someone must retrieve and contain them before they reform into something worse. Ihunanya called upon her sisters. Omosef, still haunted by her past, hesitated. I failed once. Why should I believe I won't fail again? Because you've changed, Ihunanya said. We all have. Isiosa, though silent, placed a hand on Omosef's shoulder, her determination clear. Together, the three sisters prepared for a journey into the forest. The forest was darker than before, its paths more treacherous. The air buzzed with an unnatural energy, and the sisters could feel eyes watching them from the shadows. Omosefe led the way, her movements cautious but steady. I won't let this forest defeat me again, she muttered. Esiosa carried a map, her sharp mind guiding their steps. Though she couldn't speak, she used gestures and notes to communicate. Ihunanya, at the rear, felt the weight of the crown grow heavier with every step. The sisters found the first shard embedded in the trunk of a massive tree. The bark pulsed as though alive, and the shard glowed faintly. Omosefe reached for it, but the tree's branches lashed out, grabbing her arm. She screamed, struggling to free herself. Wait! Ihunanya shouted. It's testing us! She knelt before the tree, placing a hand on its bark. We mean no harm, she said softly. We only wish to heal the land. The tree groaned, its branches releasing Omosef. The shard fell into Ihunanya's hands, cold and heavy. As they retrieved the shard, the river spirit appeared, its form shifting between human and beast. You seek to gather the shards, it said, its voice echoing like rippling water. But do you know what you'll do when you have them all? We'll destroy them, Ihunanya said firmly. The spirit laughed. Destroy them? Or will you be tempted to use their power again? Ihunanya hesitated, and the spirit vanished, leaving behind only its haunting laughter. The second shard was found in a village consumed by greed. Its people fought over the shard, their eyes glowing faintly with its corrupting power. Esiosa stepped forward, her silence a stark contrast to the chaos. She held out her hands, offering bread and water to the villagers. One by one they calmed, their greed subsiding. The shard dimmed and fell to the ground, allowing the sisters to take it. The final shard was buried in a cave guarded by a shadowy figure. When the sisters approached, the figure stepped forward. It was Omosef's reflection, twisted and monstrous. You are unworthy, it hissed. You will only bring ruin. Omosef trembled, but stood her ground. I am not the same person I was, she said. I've made mistakes, but I won't let them define me." The shadow screamed, dissolving into mist. The shard lay at her feet, glowing faintly. With all the shards gathered, the sisters returned to the palace. The shards pulsed with a dark energy, their whispers growing louder. "We must destroy them now," Ihunanya said. "But how?" Omosefe asked. Egosa stepped forward, holding a golden vessel etched with ancient runes. "This will contain them, but it requires a great sacrifice." Ihunanya knew what needed to be done. "I am the queen. It's my responsibility." Omosefe and Esiosa protested, but Ihunanya was resolute. She placed the shards into the vessel, which began to glow brightly. As the energy consumed her, she felt the weight of every choice she had ever made. But she also felt the love of her people, her sisters, and the land she had sworn to protect. With a final burst of light, the shards were sealed, and Ihunanya collapsed. Ihunanya awoke days later, weak but alive. The vessel had absorbed the shards, its power neutralized. Her people hailed her as a hero, and her sisters vowed to continue protecting the kingdom. The crooked smile never returned, but Ihunanya knew its lesson well. Power is never truly gone, and every choice has consequences. The forest grew quiet, its trials fading into legend. Travelers spoke of a queen who walked its paths with wisdom and courage, her crown glowing faintly in the moonlight. And though Ihunanya ruled for many years, she always kept the golden vessel close, a reminder of the choices she had made and the price of power. Although the golden vessel appeared inert, Ihunanya never underestimated its dormant power. She commissioned a secluded chamber deep within the palace, its walls inscribed with protective sigils, to house the vessel. Only she, Omosefe, Esiosa, and Egosa knew its location. One night, Ihunanya visited the chamber alone. The vessel sat in the center, radiating a faint warmth. She placed her hand on it and closed her eyes. Whispers echoed faintly, memories of the shards and their promises. "You're still listening," a voice said from the shadows. Ihunanya turned sharply to see Omosefe, her face pale in the dim light. "I couldn't sleep," Omosefe admitted. "The shards, they haunt me." Ihunanya took her sister's hand. "They haunt us all, but we faced them together, and we will continue to do so." Esiosa, once silent and reserved, found new strength in her role as the kingdom's guardian of knowledge. She took it upon herself to document every detail of their journey, the trials of the forest, the power of the shards, and the wisdom Ihunanya displayed. One day, as she sketched a map of the cursed regions, she felt a strange sensation in her throat. She coughed, and suddenly, words spilled forth. "Sisters!" she cried, her voice trembling. Omosefe and Ihunanya rushed to her side, stunned to hear her speak. Esiosa's first words were simple but profound. "Thank you for not giving up on me." The sisters embraced, their bond stronger than ever. Under Ihunanya's reign, the kingdom flourished. Villages rebuilt, trade routes reopened, and the people celebrated their unity. Ihunanya established schools to teach the next generation about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of courage and kindness. Omosefe became an ambassador, traveling to neighboring lands to forge alliances. Her fiery spirit, once a source of conflict, became a tool for diplomacy. Esiosa dedicated her life to preserving knowledge, creating a library filled with scrolls, maps, and tales of their kingdom's history. Years passed, and peace seemed unshakable. But one evening, during a council meeting, a messenger arrived, his face pale with fear. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "a strange phenomenon has been reported in the northern regions. Crops are withering, and animals are fleeing. The villagers speak of a shadow that moves like a living thing." Ihunanya's heart sank. "The shards are sealed," she said. "This can't be their doing." Egosa, now frail but still wise, spoke gravely. "The forest holds many secrets, Queen Ihunanya. Not all are tied to the shards. This could be something older." Despite her advancing years, Ihunanya prepared to return to the forest. "This is where our story began," she told her sisters. "And if there is another threat, it's where we will end it." Omosefe and Esiosa insisted on accompanying her. "We started this journey together," Omosef said. "We'll finish it together too." The sisters entered the forest once more, the air thick with an ominous energy. The paths seemed more twisted, the trees whispering warnings in a language only the wind could understand. Deep in the forest, they found the source of the disturbance, a massive black tree, its branches writhing like snakes. At its base lay a pool of dark water, rippling despite the absence of wind. From the pool rose a figure, its form constantly shifting, a blend of shadow, smoke, and countless faces. It spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You thought you could contain the shard's power," it said. "But power is eternal. It finds new vessels, new forms." The sisters stood firm, their courage unwavering. Ihunanya stepped forward, her voice steady. "We have faced power before. We have chosen unity over greed, love over fear. You will not break us," the shadow laughed. "You misunderstand, little queen. I do not seek to break you. I seek to tempt you." It shifted into the form of Ihunanya's younger self, holding the black stone. "You've seen what I can offer. Imagine what you could achieve if you embraced me." Before Ihunanya could respond, Omosefe and Eseosa joined her, forming a circle around the shadow. "We've seen your tricks before," Omosefe said, her voice defiant. Eseosa, her newfound voice strong, added, "You only have power if we give it to you." The sisters clasped hands, their unity forming a barrier of light that pushed the shadow back. It writhed and screamed, its form dissolving like mist in the sun. As the shadow vanished, the black tree withered and the forest began to heal. Flowers bloomed where the dark pool had been, and the air grew lighter. The river spirit appeared, its form serene. "You have passed the final test," it said. "The forest will no longer challenge you. Go with its blessing," their hearts filled with relief and gratitude. The sisters returned to the kingdom as heroes, their bond stronger than ever. Ihunanya continued to rule with wisdom. Omosefe brought peace to distant lands, and Eseosa's library became a beacon of knowledge for generations to come. The legend of the queen and her sisters became a tale told across the land, a reminder that true power lies not in domination but in unity, love, and the courage to face the unknown. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the forest, the crooked smile waited. Not for revenge, but for another soul brave enough to walk its paths and learn its lessons. Subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the like and notifications button for more folktales stories.